You know, you can build landing pages for websites like this one and a variation on it just here using 3 simple prompts in most of the various AI pair programmers. And with a little bit of a custom instruction, you can even change it up a little bit by giving it a bit of a Christmas theme. So stay tuned as we explore 3 prompts that build these landing pages. AI is all the rage, and you've decided that you want to create a little business around something to do with AI and thought, I need a website, I need a landing page. And now you're researching, should I use Wix? Should I use WordPress? How do I create this? In this video, what I'd like to do is see if we can use 3 simple little prompts, a little bit of prompt engineering and vibe coding, and create our own landing page for a brand new business. I'm Happy Dave, let's get into it. Vibe coding is getting really powerful. In the last couple of months, we're seeing an influx of people doing videos around this topic. Here are a couple I've done on building application shells recently. You can check out these videos over on my YouTube channel. But I've also been using it to work through React and Tailwind componentry. This was a little application I put together yesterday. And in the last week, I've been working on this application that uses AI. We can press little buttons here to preload it with data. And as it works through, it can go off to external systems like N8N. This application will go off and use AI to get questions relating to an incident in a medical situation. Now, the client for that project came to me yesterday, gave me a few pieces of information, such as a logo and a couple of supporting documents, and said, can you turn this into a website landing page? And so today, that's what we're going to try and do using just 3 prompts. So I think for today, I'm just going to go into ChatGPT and just get a starter conversation going on with the main ideas. So if I was building a landing page for a new business in HTML and Tailwind CSS, this is all the technology that I've said is available at the moment. We need an agent or a person who is skilled in the art of making landing pages for websites. They understand marketing, that sort of stuff. The next thing we would need is the business or marketing collateral. So the information about the company or the business that we're trying to promote on the website. And the last thing we need to know is what would be the requirements document for the landing page? What would be the structure of the site? So I'm just going to put this information in and press enter for now. And what that's done is given us a breakdown of those 3 areas in just better writing than I could have done through the inputs. So we've got this role or agent definition, which is a marketing landing page designer. We've got the skills required for that particular entity. Now we've got the sort of information we should collect. I don't know that I'm going to have it all, but we've got brand identity like the logo we do have, colors and fonts. I don't have that at the moment. Don't currently have a mission and vision, I think. I haven't actually read all the documents, and I don't think that matters too much. What you really want to do is the better the information you have available, you just feed it all in, but this is the sort of information you're trying to come up with. And then the last one is, what would a requirements document or a product requirements document look like, and the structure. So we got all this information here. We're not going to implement it all. We're going to let AI do a lot of the work, and we're just going to vibe code something that we're happy with. So because this is a video and we're doing things visually, I just turned that information firstly into a PowerPoint presentation so I can describe it better to you. We need an agent role definition, we need business marketing collateral, and we're going to need a requirements document. And I'm showing you this because when you're vibe coding, keep in mind that all the marketing imagery you want is as simple as taking the information and just shaping it into a picture of a particular style. This particular image, I just said, create image, 16:9 aspect ratio, use the golden age of comics as the style. That represents, and I said the 3-part section above, as if it was a PowerPoint presentation. Now, the first prompt that I want to create is going to be a persona. So the way we'll do that is we will just select the information it has right here. And I've just started, can you take the following information and turn it into a persona? We'll paste it in and we'll just press enter on that. So starting to write out information that we'll use in a variety of vibe coding environments. Now we have a persona document has been created. What I like to do here is just go into canvas mode. This information, we could use it from any number of vibe coding tools, but we just copy the information. We can close that down, head over to VS Code in this case, and I've just set up 3 blank documents. So the one we're starting off with is going to be the persona, and we can see all the information that's there. We could edit it over here if we wanted to. So the next thing we want to do is go and have a look at these documents. We've got 2 PDFs and a Word document, and I'll just take us back to our GPT window. And essentially, I want to build this area using that information. So I've just started a prompt that says, can you develop a detailed overview of the company information using the attached documents? I'm also going to just paste in this regular information. Now, if we bring up the folder view that we had earlier, we can see these 3 documents, and hopefully we can just drag them in here. They're now attached and they're loading into memory. What I'd like it to do is read through all of these and apply the information and just see if we can get a detailed brief related to this particular organization. So that's just finished creating the information. We've got the company, it's called Supporting Signal. We've got a mission and a vision. We've got brand identity, pillars, taglines, visual identity. So it looks like we don't have colors. Edit this document dynamically here to add in some colors that make sense for this sort of organization. We've got a target audience personas, we've got social proof differentiation, and we've got a little bit of existing information. I think for the colors, we should just be able to go back to the logo, which already has some colors in it. Well, we'll just add that in there and say, can you extract branding colors from logo? And we might also say, I've also added a little bit, you can add more branding colors if you think it makes sense. So we got new colors being created. Now let's go and turn everything into a document. So I've just said, can you create brand details document using the recommended color palette from the AI's point of view? Plus, I'm just going to paste in the rest of the information that we had above, and this should turn it into a canvas document. Start writing everything. There's a little button at the top of this where I can press copy, and we'll just move it directly over to the file system. So here's our document. We'll go and press copy, go back to Visual Studio in this case, and we'll click on the brand details document and just paste everything in and save it. So the last piece in the puzzle is to create a requirements document that we can use. Now we do need to be careful that whatever we create right now doesn't get too influenced by the other 2 documents we've done, the role and the marketing collateral, mainly because we have detailed information there. It's in this conversation, but when we use it in another tool, I'll be using Claude Code, but it could be Replit, it could be Cursor. They are already provided as tangible finished documents. So what I've done is started a prompt that says, can you create a requirements document for me? The project is pure HTML and Tailwind CSS landing page, no JavaScript frameworks or backend logic. Keep the text minimal and focused. Now, I've also said this prompt is being used in a separate chat bot and already has access to the 2 supporting documents, which is the brand details and the persona document that we've just talked about. You can let these documents inspire the structure, but don't integrate it. So in this case, it's a little bit fuzzy. I would write this prompt a little bit differently if I was going to do the actual vibe coding inside ChatGPT. But in this case, I'm just preparing documents. I might also just take the original information that was right here and throw it down the bottom. You can use this and we'll paste it in, and let's see what sort of a requirements document it produces for us. So we've got a detailed document with the project scope, the technology is listed. It looks like the page is going to have a hero, which is the main image at the top of the website. We've got some features, who it's for, compliance and intelligence section. This is for government sponsored programs, so this is important. We've got testimonials, frequently asked questions, and a call to action and footer. We've got all the layout, SEO, media and assets. I think we've even got the location of the files. So a simple HTML file with simple CSS and an assets folder. So we'll just copy the information and we'll go down to our requirements document and we'll paste everything in. Now I plan to do a few versions of the landing page, and I'll do it from a few different techniques. So we'll start off in regular Claude at the moment and put in a prompt that says, can you become? Now, what do we want to become? We want to become the persona that we set up earlier. So if we go over and drag the persona into here and press go, it's loading in the idea of what a marketing landing page designer really encompasses. Next, we'll put in a simple prompt. We'll go, can you absorb branding design guidelines? We're waiting for further instructions. We'll go back down to our files. This time we'll put in the brand details and we'll just let that come in. So now we've loaded up this clean conversation with two useful pieces of information. One is an employee of sorts, a web designer in this case, and we've loaded in all of the details around the brand. And the last prompt is, can you create a website using brand details that we've already inputted and the following requirements? So we can just drag that information in and press go. And what it should start to do is create an artifact for us and start generating the code over on the right. One of the things that we can see here is that we've got Tailwind CSS. This actually might be a little bit problematic because I find this particular CDN implementation not to be the best. So we may need to change that. But at the moment, it's just writing all the HTML we need to do some sort of visual landing page. And this will change every time you do it. So the good thing about this technique is that you can run it multiple times, and I'll show you a better way of doing that soon so that you can test different iterations. So it failed to create, and it's happened because of an uncaught reference error to Tailwind. I see this fairly regularly, and when I went to go into fix mode, it just randomly did 6 or 7 tests that all failed, and I had to give it a little bit of instructions, and on the 9th one it did work. And so we've got this landing page that's been created correctly. It's following the branding guidelines that it assumed would be the right way to go. I think we could play around with colors a fair bit, but let's test a couple more ways of generating this same landing page with other tools. So to test out the next technique, we'll just go to a clean ChatGPT window and I'll say, I will give you 3 documents. I want you to become the persona. I want you to read and understand the brand details for the client. And lastly, I want you to create a simple HTML page using the requirements. I've also just said for reinforcement, in other words, as persona, read brand details and create HTML following the requirements. And if we pop on down to our file system before where we had these files, we should be able to just drag them in. Once they've loaded, we can just press go and hopefully it'll start writing HTML and we'll be able to visualize it in ChatGPT. So it started writing index.html. Maybe it's something that we've got to bring down to Visual Studio to edit and run from. One of the things I noticed high up is that we've got Tailwind CSS, but we don't actually have a link to it to a CDN. So this wouldn't run the way it is right now. We also don't even have these icons. So things will be a little bit different when running it this way. And quite frankly, it's a very small HTML file. So let's just see what would happen if we just go into the edit mode. So from edit mode, we can actually preview it. There's a little button up in the top right hand corner. And so we can see that none of the CSS has come through for us. So I'm just going to test whether I can bring this alignment and working directly from ChatGPT. I've just said, can you make this complete? In other words, can you replace the asset icons that we had, which were images, with just scalable vector graphics? And can we make sure that the CSS is calling a CDN? And we'll just run that. It'll rewrite the code for us. We can see the scalable vector graphics being drawn here and here. I don't know what shape they are. They're just a bunch of mathematical numbers from my point of view at the moment. Now, like in Claude, we had similar issues with the Tailwind CSS showing up. So I just gave it a screenshot, said, what are the suggestions? Came up with a few. I said, can you just use the recommended change? It rewrote it for us. And what that means is that if we hit play on this particular one, we now do have a working version on the screen. It's a little bit different to the other. But now let's go to the last technique, which I prefer to use over these two, which is to use Claude Code. So I've come down to Visual Studio. We've got our 3 files that we're interested in here, and I'm just going to open up a terminal. With the terminal open, I can start typing Claude, and this will open up. We can initialize it, we can do options, but I'm just going to use it the way it is right now and start writing a prompt. So I've just said, can you become, I'll put in the @ symbol and I'll start writing persona, and that becomes available. Then I say using the brand details, again I put in the @ sign, I'll start typing brand. I've said create a HTML file called, we can put in anything we want. We can even use the @ symbol, even though it won't make a lot of sense because it doesn't exist right now. I'll do index1.html in this case. And the reason I'm doing the 1 is we should be able to create 2, 3, and 4 and see different look and feel. And the last thing we should write here is follow the requirements. At that point, we can just start typing requirements. There's the document, and we press enter and press go. So now it's reading all 3 files and coming up with a plan of action for what it wants to do. It says, I'll create a marketing landing page for support signal using the brand details and the requirements provided. And now it has a list of steps that it's going to work through. We've got creating the HTML structure. So it's created the code. It's asking if I want to write it into the system. So we've got this new file called index1.html going on, and it says it's finished everything. It's told us everything it's done. If we right click on the file, and I've got live server available, so I can click on that button there, and here we have it. One of the things I find about Claude Code over the last 2 techniques that we used, which was ChatGPT Plus and the Claude conversation window as well, is that this tends to work every time, and the quality, the output tends to be a lot better. This is using the Opus model in this particular case. We're on index number 1. Even things work. So I clicked on a button and we saw start your free trial. Now for the next example, we'll create index 2 and we'll start typing in Claude again, but this time I'm going to put in a model, and I'm going to use the Sonnet model. So if we pop this up like this and kick it off, we're still in Claude, we're just doing it from a different location, and I'm going to paste in a prompt that says, can you become persona, the same brand details, the same requirements, only we're going to put it into index number 2. So it's going to go through the same thing all over again. Now, as that happens, we'll have our Visual Studio coming up. We can see everything running down in the bottom right hand corner, and hopefully a new file called index2 will get generated here. When we look at it in the terminal, it's got all similar stuff to before, but it will change things around. We could have even used a little bit of a custom instruction to do something fancy, and we might do that with the 3rd example. So it's got all the information. It's started writing a new file. So I'll right click on the index2 and we can open it up, and here we have it. Now it looks very similar. If we go down the bottom, let's look at them side by side. Here was the other version that we had, slightly different, and we come back. So we'll right click and open up index 2, and here it is. If we look at it compared to index 1, the same way, it's called from reactive reporting to reformative intelligence. If we look down at FAQ in number 2 and we move down, we've got FAQ. Again, it's slightly different. And we've got a different way of doing the email sign up down the bottom. So for our final test, we'll just do something a little bit different. I've got exactly the same prompt in the same conversation. This time I've called it index 3, which makes sense, but I want to give it more of a Christmas feel. So I'll just say it's Christmas, and we have decided that the landing page needs a Christmas feel. So let's see what it does the 3rd time. So it's got our to-dos. It's a little bit different because we're going to structure it with festive elements. We're also going to have brand colors plus the Christmas color accents. Now, if you're wondering how long this should take, I'm finding that it's taking somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes to generate these pages, but it is a one shot. It gets it right each time. So that's finished. We'll go over to Visual Studio. We've got a 3rd file. When we look through, we've got some colors, and look at that. We're starting to see concepts like animations. We've got Christmas reds. What happens if we go to the web on this? And it's still our brand colors, but we've now got Christmas trees, we've got presents, we've got snowflakes, we've got some sort of border going around. Let's see. And the color of all the panels have all changed quite a bit. Now, this was created from scratch, so normally you wouldn't do it this way. Normally you might say modify the existing structure to have the Christmas feel, but this has worked pretty well. I love this. So to recap, we essentially used 3 prompts. We had the agent definition role, so who was going to be building the website for us. We then had our marketing collateral, our branding information, our second brain, and that could be any information that you want to see going into the website. And lastly, we did the requirements. We tested it on Claude, OpenAI, ChatGPT Plus, and Claude Code. And with the Claude Code, we were able to do 3 different variations, including a Christmas version. Now, if you're interested in working one-on-one with me with vibe coding, you can come and book a call. Through that, we can arrange some time to work together. But otherwise, if you just want to learn more about vibe coding and using prompt engineering to write software, then follow the channel, Appy Dave. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.